Welcome to Mishna study, Masachet Terumot Perek Mishna Gimal. Over here in this Mishnah, we're going to discuss really a continuation. We spoke in last Mishnah, regrown Teruma, if it's obligated in Ma'asrot. So last Mishnah, we said it's obligated in Leket Shechan Pe'ah. Over here, we're going to say, anything that's grown, right? Even though it has a status of Teruma, right? You still need to give Ma'asrot from it and Ma'aser Ani from it. Aniye Yisrael v'aniye Kohanim notnim. Right? Everyone, all poor people are allowed to go ahead and collect it, right? They're allowed to take the maaser, maaser ani. Aniye Yisrael. Now, what do the Aniye Yisrael do? Right? It still has the status of teruma as well. So what do? They go ahead and sell their portion, their food, to the kohanim for the value of teruma. Right? So, like we said, if you go ahead and buy a pound for $1, if you're buying teruma, it would probably be 2 pounds for $1. Right, so the same idea, because there's less of a demand, the price is less. They keep the money. Now, when you want to go ahead and you want to, separate, you want to go ahead and separate all the kernels from the chaff. So what do? You need the wheat. What do you do? So there's two options. If you go ahead and you literally you bang it, you pound it, right, to separate the kernels from the chaff, that's great. That's mishubach. That's praiseworthy. Right? Why? We'll see, because you're not using an animal. And now hadash, ketzad yaseh. If someone wants to thresh, that's what they do. Is they would take a board, they would put it on top of the wheat, and they would have an animal go ahead and pull it, right? And it would separate the kernels from the chaff itself, right? That was another option. So what do you do over here? We have an issue. What's the issue? The animal itself is not allowed to eat this because it has teruma status, right? Unless it's the animal that belongs to a kohen, no animal is allowed to eat teruma. The animal of Israel is not allowed to eat teruma, right? So what are you supposed to do? Oh, so you may say, okay, so just don't let it eat. But that's also a problem, because we have a pasuk from the Torah, lo tahsom shor bedisho. You're not allowed to go ahead and muzzle an animal, right, when it's when it's threshing. So what do you do? What are the options? Right, it's interesting. So let's see. You go ahead and you tie a basket to the neck of the animal. So to the back of the neck, you tie a basket, and the basket literally hangs in front of him while he's threshing. And what do? You put place in the basket the same item that he's threshing. So if he's threshing teruma wheat on the floor, you take a basket and you put non-teruma choline wheat in that basket, so you can eat at the same time that he's threshing. And if it's barley, you put barley, right? The same idea. You have to go ahead and let the animal eat whatever he is working with, whatever he's threshing in the field. Right. So what happens over here is you see that he's not, going ahead and muzzling, right, the animal. You're not preventing him from from eating. You're not giving him to eat teruma. What's interesting, the language of los zomem, right? We explain it to literally go ahead and muzzle the animal, right? Which you're not allowed to do. Where does that word come from? So Rambam actually says it comes from the language in Tehillim, right? Language in Tehillim, the pasuk zemamo al tafek, right? It's talking about the Rishaim over there. And we're saying Hakadosh Baruch Hu, please, their zemamo al tafek, their machshavot, right? Let's look at the Radak. The Radak was a student of Rambam. He explains this very nicely. He says the plans of these Rishaim, don't carry them out. Right? So over here, the same idea. When you're muzzling up an animal, you're not letting him. You're preventing him from eating. Right? You're not letting him carry out what he wants to do. That's how the language of lo zomem et behema. That's what the language of zomem comes from. Right? Interesting from that pasuk in Tehillim.